Sometimes innovation isn't about seeing the future, it's about facing reality. Ron and Mark Stock were already decades into the auction business. Brothers, auctioneers, working sales across the country. Ron was the voice, Mark the operations guy. They'd experimented early, broadcasting auctions online as far back as 2001, before people trusted it, before farmers believed it. Then came 2008. Market shifted, auctions dried up, and standing still wasn't an option. So they made a decision. Not louder auctions, not bigger crowds, a different way entirely. In 2009, Big Iron was born. Timed online auctions built for agriculture. Simple, unreserved, rooted in trust earned over decades. What followed was not an overnight success. It was adoption, right timing, and technology finally catching up. Today, Big Iron connects buyers and sellers across North America, still focused on agriculture, still making hard transactions a little bit easier. This episode is about knowing when to change without losing who you are. This is the Big Iron Auction story on Building Nebraska.
Welcome back to the Building Nebraska podcast, powered by the Engler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Today we head to St. Edward, Nebraska. See part one of a conversation I had with Mark Stock, co-founder of Big Iron Auctions. You see, before online auctions were common and before bidding felt normal on your phone, Mark and his brother Ron were experimenting with those online auctions, seeing if this was not just a piece of technology, but perhaps the future of auctions. Boy, were they right. Here's part one of our conversation with Mark Stock. Mark, when did it hit you that you guys had something going with the online auctions?
Well, when we started broadcasting our sales in 2001 over the internet in real time as we're having our traditional or open outcry sales, people started to watch the auctions. They liked the convenient factor, and it went from the 3 people watching the very first sale to 100 in a few short months. So we thought that was kind of interesting, the convenient factor, how it worked. And then once we went from a hardwired, have to plug in with a phone cable, running 1,000 feet from some socket in the wall, to having an air card and a laptop, that's when it really got convenient and everybody started using it.
Did it early on, though? Did you think this was going to be the future of what you call traditional auctions?
No. We just thought it was a strap-on, something as a convenient factor to give yourself a little bit of a competitive advantage over somebody else. But it kind of grew legs pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. When did things really get going in the online space? I know 2016 was the year you went fully online.
Well, we were broadcasting auctions in 2001 over the internet up until 2008, and that's when we tried the timed-only version, which we taglined BigIron.com, and that first sale was in February of 2009, and there were 21 items on that sale, and 890 people registered to bid on those 21 items. So we thought that was kind of interesting. Like my brother says, the hair stood up on the back of his neck when we looked at all the people that registered to watch that sale. We said, whoa, there is definitely a desire from the public to use the internet.
Mm-hmm. Well, we go back in time a little bit. I want to start here. Yellow shirts. You and your brother have a unique story of why you have yellow shirts, and has roots to corn gold. Tell us the story.
Yeah, the blue and gold. We had our first auction, which was a household sale in St. Ed, Nebraska, way back in 1984, and for Nancy Nordine, believe it or not, and she unfortunately passed away a couple years ago, but she was moving from St. Ed to Arizona, and we had her sale. And the morning of the auction, I calls up Ron, and I said, dude, what do you got in your closet? I think we should show up kind of wearing the same thing, kind of look like the team atmosphere. And he says, well, I got a denim shirt. I said, I don't have one of those. I got a blue one. I said, I don't have one of those. I said, I got my yellow officer shirt when we were in FFA in high school. He goes, oh, I got mine hanging here. So we took some duct tape over the words FFA that were in the corner, and we just wrote our first names on there. And the ladies loved it because it was a bright gold. And they said, oh my gosh, it's so easy to see you guys when we know who to bid to. And that, believe it or not, is how it stuck, because a few short years later, we said, well, we had a lot big organization. I said, let's change it up. Let's try a different colored shirt. I tell you what, that was almost an ousting. People were telling us, where's your yellow? You guys, you got to be wearing your yellow. So after one sale of trying something different, we went right back to yellow, and it's stuck that way ever since. And it's all because of our FFA high school officer shirts.
And the duct tape has gone away. You got a nicer embroidered shirt now.
That's right. We found an embroidery company. We made it official.
Things were going well. You and your brother running the auction service, but you had this idea to add this option of internet. And I've heard you guys talk, kind of by chance, you started down this path of offering internet. Mm-hmm. I think about your story of constantly having to evolve in this space. Why did you feel like that was an important aspect of growing the business? I'm sure you couldn't have imagined where it would be today, but constantly innovating, why is that important to you guys?
Well, first of all, if you're not growing, you're slowing, and you have to do the certain things in any business to continue that growth. And one of the most important things you can do is change something up. The people that and the businesses that stay the same usually fall far behind fast. And using the internet, which, back then, 25 years ago, they said people on the internet will grow their business to new heights within 20 years, just like you're hearing AI is going to grow your business in 5 years to heights that you've never imagined. So we've always tried to think outside of the box and do things that were better for our sellers, more convenient for the buyers, giving them a great experience, because people will gather around something that it made their life easier. And that's what using the internet did for a lot of people. And
the internet has certainly advanced quite significantly. COVID-19 had to have been a turning point, though, when you really saw a lot more people turn into online auctions. Why do you think that is?
Well, the government said nobody can have any group meetings anymore. And we literally, during that period, had a lot of open outcry auction companies call us up and say, whoa, we got to have this sale for these people, and you guys are the only game in town. Will you do it? So yeah, we worked out a deal, and our registrations just really exploded during that period of time. And the footprint expanded beyond our wildest dreams. I mean, it was a steady growth number in the first place, because we do a lot of things to continually look for bidders and buyers that want to buy the equipment that our sellers are selling. And but COVID was good and bad for us. If you want me to be honest about it, it was good because we grew our business. It was bad because all the other auction companies had to all of a sudden look at this space when they just thought the microphone was the only way to go. Well, we said, yeah, keep doing what you think works best for you.
I wanted to talk about that because the space has to be, in my assessment, fiercely competitive. I mean, every auction company has turned to online options. There's several people that offer that for people. How do you differentiate yourselves now?
Size and scope. So many people on our website every week. So our main thing is you eliminate the risk when you have massive people watching and looking for equipment. And the way we have trained our reps in providing the information about the equipment that we're selling, and the way we always provide who the seller is, that makes that bidder and buyer comfortable with the process. So those are the main things. I wouldn't want to sell something on a site that they've had 3,000 registered bidders versus, almost 1 million. Why would you do that? I don't understand that logic myself. You're just assuming a whole bunch more risk as a seller. And today's economy, you just don't know. You can't just expect a 50-mile circle from where a seller is located to be, setting fair market value. It's got to be broader based than that. And the majority of the equipment we sell, in fact, if you take every item we sold last year by the zip code of the seller and the zip code of the buyer, close to 80,000 items, it was over 400 miles is the difference.
Wow.
On all of those items. So that just shows the size and scope of what the Big Iron platform offers those sellers.
Well, you're kind of unique in your customer base because you've got to serve through your platform the buyer and the seller. How do you balance serving both of those at the same time?
Well, if you don't have a satisfied bidder, they're not coming back. So you cannot not disclose something that's obvious, or we always tell the sellers that if there's something wrong with it and you don't tell us, they're going to find out about it when they take possession, and that's not going to be a comfortable conversation. So let's just tell everybody about it straight up, full disclosure, honesty, transparent, and then you earn that buyer's respect. And we have found time and time again, by disclosing everything that we know that's wrong with it is way more important than describing everything that's good with it. And that's why buyers keep coming back from such long distances.
What's the wildest story you've heard when it comes to a buyer or a seller on your platform?
Oh, the wildest story was we sold a 5-foot John Deere 3-point shredder, like a MX5 or whatever the number was, that was located outside of Kansas City. And a guy in close to Seattle, Washington bought it. And the seller gets the settlement and he says, whoa. He says, hey, I sold the acreage and we have to be out of there in 30 days. And this person from Seattle bought this mower and I'm going to be out of there in 2 weeks. You better make sure this is a real deal because nobody's going to be able to help this guy. So I said, well, thanks for letting me know. I called the bidder in Seattle and I said, hey, congratulations. Thanks for buying the item on Big Iron. Are you going to be able to get over there within 2 weeks? He goes, oh, yeah. He said, I bet you're wondering why I bought a 5-foot shredder by Kansas City. I said, yeah, I am. I mean, don't they have 5-foot shredders somewhere closer in Seattle? And he says, well, I go to visit my daughter who lives in Kansas City every year. And last year, I went to Kansas City and I stopped at several hotels, and me and my wife made a nice little trip out of it. And I saved all my gas receipts. And when I went to my tax man last year, I said, hey, I went to Kansas City. Can I deduct all this? And he says, what were you doing there? And he says, well, I was visiting my daughter. He says, well, if you would have just went to pick something up, you could have deducted all of your traveling expenses. I went, you're kidding me. So he says, now I'm going to be able to put that in the back of my pickup bed, and I'm going to be able to show him this is what I bought and this is where it was at, and I had to pay all this fuel and I had to stay in a couple hotel rooms, and I'm going to deduct the whole thing. And I hung up the phone and I went, only a farmer would think of something like that. So I always thought that was kind of a cute story.
That story showing the reach of Big Iron Auctions and the business that they've built based right here in Nebraska. Hey, this is just part one of our two-part conversation with Mark. I invite you to check back next week for part two of Building Nebraska with Big Iron Auctions. We'll be talking about the dynamics of the business. What's it like running a business with your brother, and how have they scaled it over the years while remaining true to their values? That's coming up next week on the Building Nebraska podcast.